to get a shot of the area for the 90s movie. Look, over there.
What is up, all my kaiju friends and fans? This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room here in Greater Cincinnati. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at the gigantic series X Plus Godzilla 1964. I have the RIC edition. It's a great figure, awesome figure, and I will bring it forth right now. And here he is, everybody. I'm back here behind him. This is the X Plus Gigantic Series Godzilla 1964, the RIC edition. The RIC for this guy, of course, was the translucent blue dorsal plates, signifying his atomic breath, firing of his atomic breath, and the open and closed mouth option for the jaw. Here is the open mouth part. I prefer it with the closed, kind of closed. It ain't all the way closed. It's like 90% closed. I prefer it with this piece in, but I also appreciate the fact that they gave us two pieces. Quickly, as far as the movie's concerned, it's one of the best movies, not only in the Showa era, but in the whole of the franchise, of the Godzilla franchise. It's a very well done movie. It's got a very good story. I like the story of it. I like how the egg just gets washed into the Mothra's egg gets washed into the ocean by the typhoon, gets recovered in off the shore of Japan, and then the diabolical, I call them the diabolical guys from the company, managed to somehow claim the egg, and then they try to they want to make money off of it, and as an attraction and all that, and it's just a really well done movie. And then, of course, Godzilla rises out of the ground in this film, which is one of the most iconic entrances for Godzilla in a movie. Rises from the ground and commences to head straight for the egg. And then the adult Mothra does show up and fights Godzilla, but the adult Mothra is dying. So it does put up a pretty valiant fight against Godzilla, but ultimately when Godzilla hits it with his atomic breath, that's the end of the adult Mothra. But it covers the egg in protection, and the egg eventually does hatch and becomes two Mothra larvae, not one. It's the twins Mothra larvae, which is cool. And then they go on to chase Godzilla onto a nearby island, and they web him up with their silk, and he falls into the ocean. And Godzilla does lose that fight to Mothra, but the whole movie is well done. The storyline, I like the storyline of it. I like the whole pacing of it. The kaiju action in it is very well done and paced out, I think. And overall, it's one of the best movies in the whole series, without a doubt. As far as this figure goes, his footprint is not deep, but it's kind of wide, because his tail goes down and curls off and up to his right. So it ain't like you need a lot of depth on your shelf, but you need some space to the side to accommodate the figure. As far as the tail itself, like I said, it goes down and curves off to the right. It's very well done. Nice sculpting of this tree bark skin on the tail. The three rows of the dorsal plates come down all the way to the tip of the tail. Very nicely done. The figure in a whole, as far as the sculpting of the tree bark skin from his tail to his legs, both legs, his upper midsection and chest area, his thighs, his arms, everything, his face, everything, all the sculpting of the tree bark skin on this figure is very, very, very nicely done. It's immaculate, really. It's very, very good. it's very on par with most of the rest of their gigantic series, really, as far as the details and the details and the textures of the sculpting of the tree bark skin is very good. Of course, it has the dark gray, charcoalish black trademark tree bark skin that Godzilla has. Very nicely done. The feet, his right foot is kind of like it's coming down for a step. The left foot is flat, but it's a very nicely done figure. The hands are 4-fingered. The claws are light bonish gray. They get darker at the base of the nail. Same with the toenails. The feet are 3-toed, wider, spread out toes than most of the 3-toed Godzillas in the series. His toes are more wider, spread out, and that is prevalent on the suit. I was noticing that when I watched the movie again, just to compare the figure to the film. But his toes are more spread out than some of the other 3-toed Godzillas, in my opinion. But they're very nicely done. Of course, the toenails are the bone gray, light gray, and then it gets darker at the base of the nail to the foot. The one thing I would say about, to me, that looks a little off on this gigantic 64 is the legs, thigh, hips area. To me, looks a little thicker than it should be. Just right in here, to me it looks a little thicker. Some shots in the movie he doesn't look quite this thick as this figure does, but it's not really a big deal to me either. It's kind of a nitpicky thing, really, and I don't nitpick that much. But to me, when I look at it head on, it almost looks like it's a little bit too thick here in the thighs and the upper leg and the legs. But other than that, I mean, it's great, nicely done. I think it represents the 64 really well. As far as his dorsal plates, like I said, they are the translucent blue vinyl on the outer. And the inner, of course, is a dark black charcoal gray with the bump type texturing on it. And this figure even has on the back here between the dorsal plates, it even has the zipper sculpted in there, the zipper line sculpted in there. It goes down between the plates. It's really cool they did that. There's several X Plus Godzillas that have that, and this is one of them. It is prevalent on there. It's really cool they put that zipper lining sculpting in there. It's pretty cool. As far as his face and head, of course, here is the open mouth piece. Tongue individually sculpted. The gums and the tongue are a pinkish reddish color. He has the trademark 64 look head on. He's got his, he just looks really mad and mean. Of course, his signature nice big high eyebrow ridge that he has, very protruding upward and outward from his eyes. It's very significant of the 64. His eyes are white with a big black pupil, which is just like the suit in the movie. His teeth are all nicely sculpted individually and done really well. Very nicely done, very nicely done. I really don't have a lot to complain on with this figure. That's in my eyes. Like I said, the only thing I notice is, to me, he looks a little thick in some respects here in the legs and thighs and upper thigh area, because this wasn't a big thick Godzilla like the 62. It was a much thinner suit. So, but to me, still he's a little bit heavy, thicker here in the midsection, upper thighs, legs than he should be, but it's not really a big huge deal. But the face is classic 64. Very when you look at this thing, it screams the 1964 Godzilla. It's very nicely done. Now the jaw up here pops out and you just push the other one in, but this one is kind of loose. On mine, it's a little bit loose, doesn't go in as tight. Now that gigantic 89, it was done really well. They same process. It has an open and closed option, but I don't know what they did differently, but it goes in really tight and stays there, doesn't move around. See, this here will kind of move around a little bit just if I touch it, but that one does not. It stays firm, it stays right where you want it to stay, and the seams are much less noticeable on the 89 than this. I mean, the biggest complaint I have with this is this application of the jaws. But if they fixed it with the 89 going forward, if they give us more open closed mouth options for these gigantics, I'm good with it, as long as it's the same process as the 89, because the 89 is very, very well done in this application of the open closed mouth pieces. But it doesn't look too bad. I do prefer it with this semi-closed mouth rather than the wide open, but other than that, that is my biggest complaint with this figure, is the application of this, because it is kind of loosey-goosey. But the textures on the face and everything are nice. The eyes, classic 64, if you look at him, certain angle, like that right there, it is the 64, and it's a very nicely done figure. I will do a few size comparisons, and we'll do that right now. Alright everybody, I'm back, and here is the gigantic 62 with the gigantic 64. About the same height and everything. Of course, the 64 is a lot bigger, bulkier suit, which is accurate to the movie. Very comparable figures here. Very nice, two very nicely sculpted and done figures. This 62 is my favorite gigantic. It still is my favorite. Alright, I'll bring up another size comparison right now. Alright everybody, here's my gigantic Godzilla 1968 custom with my X Plus gigantic 64 RIC. As you can see, they're about the same height, right in there. Pretty awesome though, I must say. Alright, we'll move on to one final quick size comparison right away. Alright everybody, my final size comparison, I got my gigantic Godzilla set 1975 holding Mecha Godzilla's head, custom sculpt, with the gigantic X Plus 1964 RIC. As you can see, my 75, he's leaning back. The famous picture on Google of this, this is what this sculpt is portrayed from. There's a black and white picture of this exact thing, and he's leaning back like that, and of course he's about an inch taller than the 64. But nonetheless, they look pretty neat. Good stuff. Alright, I'll go on to some closing comments on this excellent figure right now. Alright everybody, I'm back with my X Plus gigantic Godzilla 64 RIC edition. I forgot to mention, he comes with a tail stand, but I don't hardly ever use it. He barely to me, he looks good without it, so I really hardly ever use it, but he did come with a one of the vinyl tail stands. But it's I don't use it. To me, he looks fine without it, so I just go without it. He barely needs it, so. But this is a very excellent figure, highly. So I know people had issues with it when it got released, and some people did mods and stuff, but I'm fine with it. I like it the way it is. Screams the 64 from the sculpting of his skin, tree bark skin, to the way they did his toenails and hands, and the way his hands are positioned in kind of close to his body and up a little bit. I mean, that's how the 64 was in a lot of shots in the movie. really nicely done on the dorsal plates and all that. They're pretty accurate to the movie. I even paused it and was looking at each one, and they pretty much got it down pat. It's very admirable rendition of the 64 Godzilla. Highly recommend this figure. I know it was released, last year, I think. And it was only released in Japan. We really do need some reissues of these past few years figures, so people that didn't have a chance can have a chance again to acquire these things, because they are really excellent. Highly recommend this figure to anyone that doesn't have it. If you have the ability to afford yourself the opportunity, I would highly recommend picking up this figure. He wasn't in my top 5 Gigantics, but he has eclipsed into there, and the 54 is fallen down on my list, but this detail on this figure is really stunning. So very, very good job by X Plus in my opinion. But he's now eclipsed into my top 5 list of Gigantics. I'd say he's probably at 3 right now. The 62 is 1. The 95 is 2. This is 3. Shin is 4, and the 89 is 5. That's my ranking top 5 of my favorite Gigantics now. I've moved him up to 3 because he really is well done. Alright, I want to thank everyone for watching my videos. I'm going to bring the camera closer now to take a quick close-up of this. This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room in Greater Cincinnati, and y'all have a very blessed day.